Hello, and welcome to Jason Cabinets Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cabinets. Our guest today is Tami Ritoch. Tami, ready to be great today?
I am.
So, Tami, this should be a softball question for you. On your LinkedIn, it says, opening doors and empowering dreamers in a housing market designed to gatekeep. What in the world does that mean?
What that means is the housing market has increased in value significantly over the past decade. And it has shut out a lot of middle. You want to verify these numbers because these are off the top of my head, but ballpark range, this is good. Between 2011, I think 2019-ish, housing prices have increased like 60%, where income has increased like 5%. So I'm jumping in because folks that are trying to save for a down payment, the goalpost keeps changing. So they keep getting left behind. They're priced out of the housing market. And I've been in real estate for a couple decades now. It's been a great career. And at some point, I kind of started to feel a little bit icky about it because my income was going up. And the bulk of everybody else was not. And I just feel like as an industry, we're not doing enough to address it. So that's what I'm trying to do, is help people get into homes.
So where do these stats come from? Like, I'm guessing they come from reliable sources. They come from like some kind of national housing industry, some kind of banking. Because I would think if they come from, I'm not saying stats lie, but like 10% of 10 out of 100 is very different from 10 out of 10,000, right? Or the case should be like, they come from like housing, from bankers, lenders. Where do these stats actually come from?
Yeah, I kind of get them all over the place. I definitely get it from like the National Association of Realtors. I'll get it from Redfin. I'll get it from like community data, like King County data. So I like to, specifically, I'll use like in the Pacific Northwest, I'll use the NWMLS, and then I'll use the county data, and I'll put the two together and kind of back out from there.
It's kind of funny how, to me, it's all relative, right? Because like, of course, San Francisco has a crazy market. Seattle's a little less than that. Like even Texas house market going up, but I think Texas is worse because the income's lower there, right? And then people from New York and California moving to Texas and buying houses like cash unseen, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, of course, you can't fault someone for if they have the money buying cash, they get a better deal. But then people like in Texas, other small places like that, not small, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are kind of getting driven out of the market, right?
Yeah. Well, and the cash buyer, that's tough to compete with. And especially in the last several years, we see a lot of cash buyers. And so, like one of the things I talk about a lot is how this middle income affordability crisis, housing affordability crisis, is kind of the responsibility for all of us, everyone. And so in part, it's saying, hey, seller, yes, there might be a little bit more risk in going with a financed offer, but it might be worth considering.
I mean, I'm sure everyone's like, I'm gonna sell my house to, a veteran or a single parent or whatever the case may be, or like, I don't want to take our cash offer. That cash offer in your face, and it's a damn good cash offer, is like, okay, like self-interest takes over, greed takes over, which, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, totally normal. And, I would say, I don't think sellers should be in a position where they're like donating proceeds to a buyer. But if everything else is equal and the buyer has strong, approval in their financing, and it's going to be the same final dollar amount for the seller, I would hope that some sellers would be a little more amenable to considering a financed offer.
Yeah. So is buying a house even the American dream anymore? First everything's outpriced. And I heard like so many millennials and younger generations talk about, I don't want the house of a house. Like I'd rather like live downtown, be convenient. I ain't got time to cut the grass and do, lawn maintenance and, repairs.
Yeah.
Is this like a dynamic that's changing and we don't realize it?
Well, that's a great question. I like that a lot. So, millennials, I think millennials are the largest generation ever. And you're right. Like a ton of them don't want to own houses. But one of the things, and I can't remember where I read this and I wish I could, but it was talking about millennials are starting to head into homeownership because of their pets. Like they want their dog to have a yard.
You know what? Actually, it makes a lot of sense because like, I think I'm making this up, but I think they have the highest percentage of pet ownership versus any other generation.
I would bet they do. And the other thing is that we know historically homeownership has been one of the biggest wealth building blocks in America. But to go back, is it still the American dream? I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. I think it's still a good idea. And if it's not the American dream, I might tend to think maybe it's because they got priced out of it.
Yeah.
Or they were very anti what their parents were into. So I'm not sure which.
Yeah. I know when I was growing up, everyone said buy a house is a great investment. But I recently, several people, including I think Grant Cardone, have been saying like, no, don't buy a house. It's not a good investment, right? What's your take on that?
I think it's a great investment. I really do. And I think it's, over the long term, I think it's a great investment. I know, looking back to my grandparents, the single biggest thing they had for their wealth, which was, they were not wealthy, was their house.
Yeah.
Right. And they were really proud of it. And they lived there until they paid it off. And that's where they had, the wealth. They didn't have a savings account or 401k. They had pensions, which was great, but
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know how that turned out.
Yeah.
Off topic, it's funny how like a lot of corporations, like on the drop of a dime, they got rid of everyone's pension. Oh, we don't pay you nothing. But now they're like, oh, the workers are so disloyal. Like, get out of here, right? Are you hearing what you're saying, right? You just like pretty much like got rid of everyone's pensions and like all that kind of stuff at a drop of a hat for the company interest, right? But and now they're disloyal. Get out of here, like.
If I hear the term record profits one more time,
oh my goodness,
fall over. It's my husband and I were talking about this last night. We're talking about just the conflicting messages out there, right? The rich get richer, and people don't want to work, and there's all of these things. And one of the things we were talking about last night is, again, record profits, and yet people, I know so many organizations that are not even doing cost of living adjustment raises. So the raises,
they're losing money. Yeah, they're losing money.
And one of the things that, like the 40-hour work week, which is just kind of a joke because everybody's actually expected to work like way more than that.
Yeah. Or the reverse end, stats show if you're in the office 40 hours a week, you mainly like, you might be working 20 hours a week, but like then you're on Facebook talking to people, right? You're not really doing 40 hours.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on what the job is too. Right. And this is just we could go in so many different directions here, but it's, I kind of look at it like, here's the job, do this.
Yeah.
And if you do it, then fine, go on Facebook for the rest of that. I don't care.
Yeah. Or another instance, like you have you give someone, a company gives someone something to do, right? Like they give two people doing the same job, pretty much, like we'll say social media, we'll say sales market, what it is. They have each like 4 tasks to do in like 8 hours. One person takes them 8 hours, right? This is what he's supposed to do. Other person, he gets it done in 3 hours. The boss has said, hey, great job, go do whatever you want to do. They give them more fucking tasks to do, right? So those that say, the reward for doing a good job is getting more work.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, like why? That's not incentive for me. Like now, if you give me work, give me more pay. Yeah, I got it. But like,
agreed. Yeah. I think it should just be based on, here's the job, do this job. I don't care how long it takes you.
Yep.
I don't care. Work from there, work from here, work for 10 hours, work for 40, just get this piece done.
Yeah. Now, if you can't get it done like 8 hours, then we have a problem, right? Because like that's be some kind of minimum standards.
Yeah, I think so. I think a conversation would need to take place, especially if it can be,
oh yeah,
like if you've set out a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
It's
like especially like you're a startup founder, like I've done this myself before. I'm not an expert at it, but I did this like 6 hours, right? You're supposed to be the expert. Like if you come back and say it takes you 12 hours, there's a problem here, right? Like what's going on, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like sometimes when you're hiring, but somebody that's like, oh, I'm going to quote this job, it's going to take 6 hours, and then it takes 6 hours, right? And it's kind of, and let's just pretend it's like a dishwasher repair, right? I actually don't care if it takes 6 hours.
Yeah.
Just, is it $100 to fix my dishwasher? Great.
Yeah.
Do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well done. High five.
Exactly.
Excellent. I can start washing my dishes in my dishwasher.
Yeah.
And you can go.
Like we've all heard the what's it called? I gets locked out of the car. And so they're calling for quotes. One person says, $100, I get to do 2 hours, Finally, one quote says, $1,000 for 5 minutes. Like $1,000. Other guy said like 100, whatever. Like I've been doing this for 20 years. I can. Do you want to be in your car in a minute, or do you want to wait like an hour? Right?
Yeah.
It's up to you. Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So let's suppose like a husband and wife have bought a house. They paid it off. Let's say they have we'll say 4 kids, right? And somehow they both die at the same time. How should that couple in their world divide this house? They give the oldest, like they they say sell the house to buy the money up, or like how does that work? Because I would think, 4 kids grew up in the house, maybe have grandkids. That's a lot of sentimental value, right? I mean, I can see a lot like people like going like, I won't say the war, but like, having conflict, like the house was mine. No, I lived here the most, or, like what's the recommendation on that kind of stuff?
Well, that's tough, right? Because boy, I think we've all seen, death bring out the worst in family members. My husband and I, we have 4 kids between us, and kids, if you don't know this already, you're each getting a quarter. That's how it's working out. It's, I don't even know any other way to do it than just here's a high level, here's the equal split. Yeah, maybe it's more fair to somebody and not the other, but that's the only, I don't see it.
But then what do you do if like one kid, like, I want to keep the house, I want to raise my kids like you raised me. And like, one kid might be like, hey, I want this to be the generation home, like all the Ritochs, this is our home forever and ever, right?
Boy, I don't know, buy your siblings out, or,
That's a good point. Yeah.
Buy your siblings out, or convince them that, you guys should keep the house as an investment property for long term, and sell it down the road for the grandkids.
But when that time's gone, you and your husband be gone. Like that's on y'all. Like,
yeah,
that's nothing I can do
not
about that.
Problem.
Not my problem. Yeah.
You're so lucky you got a house to split up.
Yeah. So, how many people actually pay their house out off? I mean, 30 years. 30 years is a long time, right? I know a lot of people refinance to do HELOCs and stuff like that, and before you know it, crap, I'm 87 years old. I'm still paying on my house, right?
Yeah. I don't think, I think it's very few people, honestly. I think that used to be different. Like I said, my grandparents paid their house off, but my grandparents didn't move every 5 years. Like they bought it and lived there for 50 years, and that was it. But I think the regular middle income, regular person probably doesn't pay their house off. And
what happens then? Does that debt just pass on to their kids, or like how?
Yeah, it does. It does. So
that'd be like a nice surprise. Winning the will. Oh, by the way, your parents still owe $325,000 on his house. First payment's due June 1st. Yep. Who gets the bill? Oldest, second, third,
There's an easy decision to sell. Let's put it on the market and get this debt. Although, I'm in my 50s now, I can say that I'm kind of more interested in like looking at the not owing money on a house versus, I don't want to start a new mortgage.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
Any parent wants to like burden their kids like this big ass mortgage,
Exactly.
You always wonder how me and your dad, or me and your wife could go on these fancy vacations every year. This is why.
Yep.
We're like 20 equity loans out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and people do, they tap into that. And it's, it kind of goes back to, this wealth building thing, right? And so a lot of people are choosing to tap into that wealth before they,
I mean, why not enjoy your life, right? Like, I think there's definitely a lot of pros and cons.
Yeah.
But you probably need to discuss at least your kids or someone, like.
Yeah. And the good thing, that's so hard. It's for your kid. And but then again, it's like,
and some kids, like, like your house might be in Seattle. They live in like Denver, Colorado. Like, I'm not moving back to Seattle just to live in this house, or somebody might be like sentimental value, like, just so many variables to,
Yeah. Well, and in Seattle now, if a family has owned a house for decades, it's a gold mine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is literally in the millions of dollars, likely, right? At least 1 million, you know? And that's crazy to me to think that just a regular old house is $1 million.
I have a friend, I think his house is in Burn, right? It's like, it was made in 74, 75, right? I mean, it's like, it has a carport. It's like inside it's still like 70s style, like they never remodeled, I think it's been like sold 4 times. My friend's in it now. He said like, it's worth like $925,000.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm like, what? There's no way. He said, no offense, my guy, but $925,000, what are you doing, right? Like, but then again, if you sell the house, how you gonna buy another one, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Unless you plan on moving like, the South or, Idaho or Kansas or something like that, right?
You got to move further out to, to not spend the $1 million. I mean, it's boggling to me that how quickly the home prices have increased. But it's, it's challenging too, because people are priced out of Seattle and, they got to go further out.
So I know you've been like, what does it mean for accessibility for homeowners?
So accessibility for homeowners in the providing a path to homeownership where they didn't have one before. So, like I was saying, a moment ago that a lot of folks are just priced out of homes now because they can't catch up to a down payment amount or the closing costs. And closing costs are, there's this expense that kind of surprises a lot of potential homeowners.
And it's not like $100 bill. It's like, it's kind of, up there.
Yeah, it's thousands of dollars, it's thousands of dollars, in the, 2-ish% range of a home price to pay, to borrow money to buy the really expensive house. So the accessibility piece is we're just giving them access to homeownership by helping guide them through the down payment grant program, or we pay their closing costs. And the other thing we do is we provide a lot of education up front, because it's not about necessarily getting everybody into homeownership, but getting people that are qualified into homeownership and helping them responsibly sustain homeownership, right? There was a point seeing out mortgages like Mardi Gras beads, right? That turned out to be problematic. So we don't want to do that, right? We don't want to get folks into homes that can't afford it or can't sustain homeownership. So we want to make sure we've got some, education piece up front and guide them through the process and help them get into a home if they can afford it and sustain it. So that's the accessibility piece.
Okay. So I'm a retired Army officer, so I don't have to pay, VA loans have to pay anything down, so I don't have to do the PMI insurance, right? I could be wrong, but it almost seems like, making people pay 20% down and the mortgage insurance, almost like a way, like, keep middle income and poor people out of homes, right? Is that how that started, or just off base?
Well, no, I think that's exactly it. I mean, the banks kind of rule the world, right? And so, and that just is terrible. So 20% down, right? Or you're stuck paying mortgage insurance, which is hundreds of dollars a month. It's not a small amount, which then affects your debt to income.
And then if you miss either the mortgage or the mortgage insurance, it's still a hit, right?
Oh yeah. And it's, you're just paying the bank more to borrow the money.
Yeah.
It's just, honestly, I think, what I said, there's so many solutions to the housing affordability crisis, but banks could do a little bit more, I think. It's like, well, we do this because of safety and risk and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
But if you really did your due diligence, maybe you shouldn't have sold a $300,000 house to someone who works at McDonald's.
Yeah. Yeah. And the folks go through the same qualifying process, right? And, banks have gotten billed out once or twice.
Yeah.
So maybe we could not, penalize first-time home buyers with this mortgage insurance, or, we can give them a great rate, even though they're not putting 20% down.
Mhm.
Because, the buyer that's coming in without the big down payment, or maybe the super high credit score due to whatever reason, but not necessarily negligence, they're paying a higher interest rate. I mean, they're just paying more and more and more to the banks for the banks to make more money. And I get risk, but come on now, there's more that can be done.
What's your take on homeowners associations? Like, of course, this is a good way because they keep someone like, having like 3 junk cars on the front lawn. Again, some rules you hear, like, you can't have a flag up here. You can't have this color,
Yeah.
And then is it true, like, if you miss your HOA payment, they can actually like cancel your mortgage or something like that? Like, how much power does HOAs really have?
Well, it depends. In part, you'd have to miss a lot of HOA payments, and then they could put a lien on your house.
Like, I won't say a nonprofit, basically like a nonprofit organization has that much power, right? Like, I don't know.
But they sign up for it, right? So if you buy into
I mean, it's true, right? I mean, I bought my house down in DuPont as part of the agreement, you're going to put the homeowner association, blah, blah, blah. Just, I don't know. There's something that seems, it's a usual word, it's something that seems icky about it.
I'm not a fan myself. So I have not ever lived in an area with a homeowners association. Because I don't know, there's just something, I was like, this is my house. I'm going to fly whatever flag I want.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, looking across the street, it's like, man, I wish that neighbor didn't have all those cars out front.
Yeah, right. I know, right? Yeah. I know I read or heard something recently where there's one HOA, they're actually using drones to fly over people's houses, looking at the backyards and stuff. Now, to me, that seems probably illegal, right? Like, so this one person got fined because they had they put something in the backyard that was, I won't say a deck or maybe it was something there, right? And behind there was nobody behind their house, right? It's like a forest. So they so they got a fine for having this, undocumented, what do you want to call it, I'm like, so you flew a drone? Like, come on now. Like, that's a bit far, right?
I think that's a little bit far, right? And then it kind of goes back to like, who cares? Like, there's nobody behind them, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's just being a jerk.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, who's affected by, I mean, I don't know exactly what it was, right? But if you need to fly a drone over to prove that the thing happened, maybe it's not a big deal.
That's something good. Like, like if it's like Christmas and some guy has like 10,000 boat, Christmas lights that shine to the moon. Well, maybe the HOA needs to shut that down,
right.
Unless all the neighbors like do it. Like in my neighborhood, every year for Halloween, there's one house on this corner, like two block, like it's like a horror movie in the front yard, right? So many dead walking around. The movie shown, like it's crazy, but it's nice, but everyone looks forward to it. But
yeah, well, I think, like if you back up a couple decades, you should just go talk to your neighbor.
Yeah, those days are long over, unfortunately.
I know, and that kind of sucks because now we've got these homeowner associations or whatever, and
mediators and stuff,
Yeah, gosh, I wish we could just go talk to our neighbors and be like, hey, your light's shining in my window and I can't sleep. And oh, sorry, I'll turn it off at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's something else that changed. Like, back in the day, if you're at home with your family, someone knocking on the door, we got company. Go see who it is, right? Who is, oh man, Tom and his wife, man, we haven't seen him for a while. Come by, sit down.
Yeah.
Like, we can make you some coffee. Want to drink? Like, how much time you got? Oh, we're just in the neighborhood. I'm going to stop by, say hello, see how the kids are doing. And for like you're talking, watching something 2 hours. Nowadays, someone knocks your door, like, you invite someone over, like, duck below the window. Like,
who's here?
Did anyone invite anyone? Like, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
It's like you got to make appointments. So like, the days of dropping by to see anyone are long gone, right? You got to make an appointment and then like, oh, hey, you got to text. I'm here now. Don't shoot me. I'm coming.
Right. That's, it's so get excited when people knock on my door. Like, I'm like, yeah, let's open some wine.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to eat, but maybe, here's some croutons, or, we can order a pizza or whatever. And, I still love that so much, but like my kids, I'm like, yeah, don't, if somebody doesn't know you're coming, you better, call them and let them know.
So I was at home, right? And I heard this noise. And I looked at the window. It's this truck drove in the driveway, right? I'm like, what in the world's going on? Like, you just gonna randomly go to my driveway. So I'm like peeking around, like, and they knocked. Of course I ignored it. And then like I see them to leave like 20 minutes later, and they had left like some bingo tickets for my wife, right? From the HRA, right?
Yeah. Okay.
They're like, who's this random person? Like, who is audacity, like driving it, parking anyone's driveway, right? Like parking the street like a normal person, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You wonder now, right? I mean, there's so many things that have changed, and there's just so much, I don't know, unpleasantness right now that it's tough.
So let's talk about sales. Talk about how in the past all your teams like exceeded all your sales targets. Like, how did that come about?
Well, so when I was at larger organizations, I had really big sales teams. Right now we're a small crew. Nobody has a sales quota or anything. Everybody just does what they want to do, sort of, right? It's everybody gets to kind of,
all your workers like, we can do whatever we want to do. We'll run with that.
Kind of, yeah. It's, because there's just because of the way that real estate is structured. So we're very, we're kind of set up in make as much or as little as you want. You want to work more? Awesome. Go work more. You want to work less? Great. That's fine. You just get paid less. But if I back up to, former organizations that I was at, it's always been a passion of mine, like the whole work-life balance thing, which is kind of a myth, but I think people excel when you give them the room to excel. And, so I think that's where the success came from, but it took a long time to figure that stuff out. And I never actually figured it out. I think maybe I just got lucky in the end.
So I'm guessing you can't be a success in real estate without being like some kind of base knowledge of sales, right?
Yeah, maybe, it's, you're really just guiding people through a process, right? I mean, I think to be successful in real estate, there's a lot that goes into it. Number one, you've got to be knowledgeable of the market, right? And the contract. I mean, that's kind of the bare bones of guiding somebody through this very large purchase. But the client, like there's two different pieces, right? There's like the contract, guidance, that piece. And then there's the drumming up business piece, right? And sometimes the person that's really successful at drumming up business is really kind of just a mediocre agent, It's great if you can marry the two together and, somebody who's really great at getting business and guiding clients well.
So you have like over 20 years experience doing this kind of stuff. From your point of view, what makes someone like a really good or even great real estate person?
Ooh, that's a tough question. So, I think somebody is really good when they put their clients' needs before their own. I think in order to do that, you're looking at, what's best for the client. Like, what do I bring to this? What can I bring to this versus what am I getting from this? And I think that's just such a different mindset. And, a lot of people are like, I got into real estate because you can make so much money. Yeah, you can, but that's kind of a crappy way to go about like having that be your mindset. As I think if you can look at all of your transactions as what can I bring to this? How can I help these people? And then the money piece just comes together in the end, right? It's over there. It falls in place. But I think that's what makes a good agent is putting the client before themselves.
So it's essentially presumed that since most real estate people have to work weekends, open house, stuff like that, they're like pretty much like they take off 2 days during the week to compensate themselves for it.
Yeah. And, and that's the thing with real estate too, is people just, they work when they want.
Mm.
If you don't want to work, and I have a ton of people that don't want to work weekends. I know a ton of real estate people that don't want to work weekends. And one of the things that some people do, and one of the things that we do for our brokers is we'll have like newer real estate agents that are just kind of getting started. We'll have them go out and show houses or attend open houses or do things like that to support the more experienced agent or the people that want to take a weekend off. It's kind of just sharing the load. And everybody wants to do it a little bit differently. You want to work a weekend? Awesome. Go for it. You don't? Okay. We can figure out how to take care of the client another way.
So how does one become a real estate agent? It's like, you have to have a college degree, a certain test. I mean, like, how do you, and then you always like real estate with all these like little letters after the name. What's all that kind of stuff about?
So to get a real estate license, you just have to do some real estate school. I think it's 90 hours right now. Maybe it's 100. I think it's 90 hours in Washington. But it's really, you could just do it online over you just do the clock hours and then you take a state exam and then you're a real estate agent. So
does this frustrate you? Like, let's suppose like there's somebody, and they've been like, 20 years they've done, I suppose they've been a plumber for 20 years, right? And all of a sudden, like, I'm gonna be a real estate agent, and they take the test, and now they're a real estate agent. Like, does it like kind of hurt? Like, like this is my life's work, and you just like randomly take this test, and then you can start selling houses. Like, no, come on now. Like, we need some more kind of professionalism here, right?
To some degree, yes. I mean, I actually love new agents because it's like there's so much to share with them, right? It's but yeah.
Some of them are like, oh, like you said, I'll be rich being a real estate agent, and like they think you just take this random test and then pop a sign up and, oh, I'm making $1 million in sales a month, right?
Yeah, there's that. And I've interviewed hundreds of real estate agents over the course of my career, and it's so funny. And you meet so many people like, oh, I love houses. I think I'll be a realtor. I love my car, but I'm not going to be a mechanic, Okay. So I think sometimes people don't realize how much goes into it. It's not really just touring houses and taking pictures of cool living rooms.
Yeah. So my son-in-law, he's a real estate agent doing like, I think 6-7 years. I'm making that up probably. But he told me like, we first started, like he was like just a cold calling, knock on people's doors, all that kind of stuff. Now he's the point where like, he gets referrals. He doesn't do the stuff now. But he first started, like, he's like, man, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
Like, why am I gonna let you sell my house? Like, who are you, right? You've done nothing,
Yeah.
And so you got to get someone to trust you at first, right? And then build up your capacity.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. It's hard at first. And a lot of folks get going in real estate like when the market's really hot and they do really well, and then the market takes a downturn and it's not quite as easy. And so, it's, I don't know, I think in any profession there's folks that are really good and some So
Try some of this now, or
I'll try a little bit.
Okay.
I'll probably make a face because that's
no
what
worries.
happens.
Yeah. Are you doing this? So this is my opinion, right? Like, no matter how bad the economy is, real estate people always say now's the time to buy a home, right?
Mhm.
It could be high interest, low interest, good, bad economy. I've never heard a real estate person, now is not the time to buy. Like, they always like spin it, so to speak, right? Like, buy a house now, interest should be low, or buy the house now because, the market's going to explode, right? Or like, why do you really say agents? First of all, am I wrong about really say people always say buy now versus you might want to hold off a bit,
Right. I think you're right. I think that is said a lot.
First, cheers. Thank you for
Cheers.
coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to sniff it for a minute. So one of the things that I like to tell people is, the right time to buy a house is when it's right for you. It's usually
that's such great advice right there. That's such good advice. Like, yeah,
it's life. Is it right time in your life to buy a house? And if it is, then fine. If the interest rates are high, guess what? They're going to come down at some point. If they're low, high five, lucky you. But life dictates the purchase, right? Because we all sit here all day long and create reasons to buy in any situation.
Like we bought a house in DuPont, right? We moved to Fort Lewis here in 2009. The housing market was like trash, right? But I was like, you know what? Like, we've never bought a house before. We're gonna be here like at least 3 years. Like, we're gonna buy a house.
Yeah.
Like, of course, we did like, do the APR thing, and then later on refinance the lower interest rate. Of course, there's some risk in doing that too. Right? What if interest don't go down, right? But in my mind, a house, right? Unless it makes me like, now I'm not gonna buy no like 1,000 square foot house for $1 million, but like it's reduce your price,
Yeah. But yeah, it's hard. Again, the life dictates the purchase, but it's the interest rate thing is so hard too, right? Because that is really hard to guide people, because especially when folks are like, wow, I'll just refinance. And historically, the rates will come down again. But I would be like, I would be really thoughtful about buying a house at a high interest rate if you're going to be struggling to make those payments, because that can get really uncomfortable really fast. And the joy of home ownership gets sucked right out of life if you're struggling. So.
And recently with the Fed, like, it's not like they've increased interest rate like 20,000 times the last 3 months, right? Like every time, like come on, guy, like you're like,
oh my God.
Can you at least wait another day or something, right?
It's been so brutal. Oh my gosh. I mean, I've had clients like start the process before, like I had these clients that started last spring. And literally it took about 6 months for them to finally settle on a house. And the house they purchased, great house, but their payment just in that, maybe it was 7 months, but in that time period between when they first got qualified and when they actually bought the house, their payment changed by like $1,800 a month. Like, it was significant.
That's insane.
It was so
to me, that'd be a deal breaker.
Oh my gosh. Well, and there was so much that went into it too, because it was interest rates, number one, was a big deal, but also there was the student loan, wiping out the student loan debt.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah. And then, that didn't happen in time for their purchase.
So many people got their hopes up and they got that, and they got dashed.
Yeah. It's been painful, but.
Now, of course, you get a loan, you want to get the lowest interest rate you can, but does the bank you use really matter? Like, suppose like the same two different banks have the same interest rate. Does a bank or financial institution, credit union, whatever the case may be, really matter with the loan?
I think it does. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it does. And, I won't name names because that seems like a bad idea. But I think I think it kind of goes like with anything, work with somebody that you kind of get along with. This is a really important purchase. Trust your loan officer. I have worked with some large lending institutions that, the rules are the rules are the rules. That's just what they are.
Everything's black and white.
It's black and white. There's no one to talk to. This is the way it is. Da da da. And sometimes smaller institutions, there's, you can kind of talk to somebody.
Or the bigger banks that they're really with you all the way, but once you sign a dotted line, customer service becomes an automated bot answering machine, and you can never get the real person.
Yeah, or something will come up that's challenging, like you know, like I don't know, like your appraisal comes in low, or just some unique or uncommon thing will come up, and again, the rules are the rules, and I have found that sometimes it's easier working with more flexible institutions to go through that stuff.
So Tami, what do you do for fun?
Oh, well, I like to sail. My husband and I just got a sailboat in February, so that's been a new fun thing. I should be prepared for this. You know, I like hanging out with people. I like talking about stuff. I'm a political junkie, which everybody in my household hates. I'm actually not allowed to talk politics in my house except for one day a month, and I only get an hour on that one day, unless something really exciting has happened, and then I'm given bonus time. I like to drink wine. I love to eat. I like to cook. I really want to say like I like to work out, but I don't. I feel like I should say something healthy. I don't hike.
Like people say, I wake up in the morning, meditate for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I go a 10-mile hike, you know, before dawn, you know, I'm with the one with nature, and I come back and crush it all day long.
Yeah. That's what I want to do. Like I wake up, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to touch my phone for like 20 minutes. I'm going to.
And you barely last 2 seconds.
Yeah. I'm like, well, what time? I got a notification. I should see what that is. So I'm
the early morning dopamine.
Yeah, I'm terrible at that. And but you know, I always like it. Like if we go on a hike or we go on a walk, but you know, I'm not going to like go buy some special shoes for it or anything. It's I don't know. I think I'm pretty chill most of all.
What kind of food do you like cooking? Like if someone said like, we'll give you $1 million, you have to cook the.
Ooh, boy.
Like this meal will get you $1 million.
Ooh, that would be so hard. I don't think I'm that good of a cook, but I would try. You know, my kids would say spicy pasta just because it's what they grew up on. I think I make this pork shank dish with a cherry sauce that's really, really good. And then I have this risotto that I love to make, which is leek and roasted onions.
Nice.
But my husband is Swiss Italian, so he working in our house because he's just so darn good at it. You know, that's like cooking mac and cheese for a Washington girl. Like, Kraft mac and cheese is what I grew up cooking. He grew up cooking like risotto and fabulousness. And
in the Army, we were stationed in Italy for 2 years in a town called Vicenza, like 30 minutes west of Venice.
Oh, okay.
So my wife learned how to cook all the stuff right. I can't even say the names, like risotto and lasagna. Like it's one thing that like is noodles, like roast, like spicy tomatoes. I can remember what it's called. I said my name, but my mind, I can't pronounce it. Like all the stuff right.
Oh yeah. Like the arrabbiata.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Right.
That's my spicy pasta.
That's it. Like whenever the kids come visit us or whatever, like that's the first thing they ask her to cook this right.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my youngest graduates tomorrow, and on the menu is spicy pasta and then a pavlova for dessert.
Okay.
Because it's beautiful and everybody loves it.
Have y'all been to Italy to visit?
Yeah. So my husband grew up in southern Switzerland, and he left.
Switzerland is such a beautiful country.
So pretty.
And like we actually drive from like Italy up to Germany for business, for Army, right? And like we always pass this lake on the left, right? It is just so beautiful, right?
Oh my gosh, it is so pretty. We, he doesn't get back as often as he would like to, but we went back in 2021, and we ended up getting COVID, which. So you
had to stay there.
So we had to stay there.
I mean, there's course places to be stuck at.
And so first of all, we had a decent COVID experience, right? Fortunately, but we still had to stay there. So our 2-week trip turned into a month.
Yeah.
And my husband had the best trip back home that he's had in decades because we couldn't see anyone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So there was nobody vying for his time.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
We were just in this cool Airbnb, just hanging out, driving around and seeing sites that he hasn't done in years. And then, And then we got to spend the second 2 weeks, after we were healed, seeing all the people.
Yeah.
But it was so crazy because, there's a stress period, like, oh my gosh, we're
stuck in Switzerland.
this is not terrible.
This is not terrible. Like,
it's okay.
we could actually be stuck in like in an airport, just go.
Right? Yeah, it was fine.
Or we could be actually quarantined in some hotel in Japan, like they were doing, like you can't see anyone.
Yeah.
And they serve your food under the door or something crazy.
Yeah. Well, so we don't know where we got COVID, but we did all the tests and everything, because back then you still had to, do the test before you flew and everything, and that was fine. I think we picked it up like somewhere between Seattle and
who knows, right?
Yeah, we have no idea, but my husband got it immediately. So like it was like we landed and we were like there for 5 minutes.
Yeah. My thing is like, how many people have COVID now that don't realize it, right? Because no one's getting tested, right? Like,
yeah,
you might have other systems, like who knows, right?
Yeah.
And one thing about overseas, especially like Europe, like Italy, Switzerland, like people have no idea how the food tastes so much better over there, right?
Mhm.
For example, something like McDonald's. So every once in a while, I have to take my army unit from Italy up to Germany, right? We'd drive with them buses or whatever. We'd always stop at this McDonald's in Switzerland. It was right across the border from Italy to Switzerland, like right there, right?
Yeah.
And that McDonald's, like it was like gourmet food. It tasted so good. Like this is an American McDonald's, right? All those like, sir, we had to stop this McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It was so good, right?
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I was in New Zealand, like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And the fast food is different, right? It's totally different. But in New Zealand, they have lamb burgers at all the fast food places because, they eat lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I would have taken a picture of this billboard. This is totally not the same thing, but it was funny. But, it was like Burger King, I think, advertising this lamb burger. And it was like a Far Side cartoon.
Yeah, like your mind's blown.
But
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God. What is that very funny billboard that's probably like, it would be totally inappropriate in the US. Like people would lose their minds.
Oh yeah. You're killing lambs?
Oh my gosh, but it was so funny. But I didn't take a picture of it.
Yeah.
And now I forgot what it looked like. But yeah, it's so different. It is so different.
The food's so different. Like I tell people, like in Italy, time we were in Italy, we never had a bad meal. Like we would like go on like lunch or dinner, whatever. You get the house wine. Like this is your house wine. Like how good is the actual like wine you're selling for money, right?
Right.
Like man, I'm good with this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, and I always think, I think wine tastes better when you're traveling.
Yeah.
And you're just having wine from where you're at. Like I've never had a bad glass of wine.
Oh no.
Yeah. Like in Italy or something. It's always like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah. And so we lived like this little village in Italy when I was stationed in the military. And so my kids, I think they were like 7th grade, first and kindergarten, something like that, right? They would take the bus on base, go to school, they'd come back. Every day, my wife would pick them up, right? Take them to a little gelato store, give them some gelato. And every day she would she had to walk by the landlord's house to get her house, right? Every day the landlord's wife would like grab them, like, I made you a little snack. It'd be like big ass pasta meal with tomatoes she picked from the backyard, right?
Yes. Yes. Isn't it? It's so.
It's just a different way of life.
Yeah. How long were you there?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great experience.
Yeah, it was a great experience, right?
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. Good times. So next, you're a political junkie?
A little bit.
Okay. Like my personal opinion, like as a country, whether you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, whatever your label is, like we have to do better than Biden, Trump 2024. Like with that, and can someone below the age of 60 please run?
Oh boy.
Like Trump 77, Biden 82, like
it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Gotta look for 2028.
Yeah, like because on the Democratic side, like no one's really running. Of course, no one runs your sitting president, but my thing is like they're not even doing debates on the Democratic side. The DNC cancels all debates, like because they're like, to me, it's like saying, okay, we don't take the risk of Biden saying something stupid, So let's keep him off. But then again, I don't know who's even going to run against him. I don't know if he has anybody who's going to say he's going to run, because usually don't. Sitting presidents have like competition, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody's going to run against him. It's going to come in 2028. I think Gavin Newsom's going to run in 2028. I don't know who else. That's my only bet.
In 2024, the Republican side is like a free for all. Of course, Trump's the big guy, but how's the felony convictions? Well, he's not convicted yet, but how's all that play out? Of course, people like so-called Trumpers, they're going to even dig in deeper,
Yeah.
And then like DeSantis is doing a lot of stuff. Some people, of course, pretty is crazy, not crazy. like the mayor of Miami's running for president
Oh,
now.
yeah. I just saw that.
You know, and then like I need to learn more about Nikki. I know some about Nikki Haley. Need to learn about her. I think I like Nikki Haley. I'm not sure about the guy from South Carolina, Tim Scott. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
he's like real pro-American conservative. You know, basically he's running as like anti-liberal rights, which can be good and bad. You know, and like random people like this, the mayor, not the mayor, the governor from North Dakota. Like, really, like,
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a long shot, right? I would think the mayor from Miami has a better chance than the guy from North Dakota, right?
You know, I don't even know what to think about all of the options on the other side.
You know,
I really think we're just got to buckle in,
suck it up, so to speak, right?
We got a few years together. And I think we'll see, I think in 2028 is when we're going to see a return to more normal.
Yeah.
You know, normal.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to Republican debates. Like, can you imagine like Trump out there cussing people out, Mike Spence going after him? You know, like me, I blame the media for getting Trump elected right back in 2016, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you know, you really didn't have a case. I mean, like you know, like clickbait thing. They were like advertise, you know, like.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think one of our things right now, like, I think one of the biggest problems we have right now is we're all so stinking polite. And
That's a good point.
You know, there was a time like in my 20s, maybe into my 30s, you know, you'd have your friends over and you're having some cocktails and you're respectfully disagreeing with each other, you know, about policies and you know, basic stuff. That was great. You know, you got to have conversations like across the dinner table from your friends. And then we got into this weird, divisive, I don't know, like, you know, I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to talk about this or that, right? But I think we lost something in not having those conversations with the people we care about the most.
Yeah.
You know, we should be able to disagree.
Or they go on Twitter on an anonymous name and, you know, bash people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then it brings us like ugliness, like even to people's relationships. And it's like, you know, you can back, you know, and we can discuss these things, you know, we don't have to attack.
That's one thing that killed me in 2016, where people were like, you know, if you're a friend of mine and you vote for Trump, you're no longer my friend, or vice versa. If you vote for Hillary, you're no longer my friend. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like, we probably weren't friends in the first place, you know?
But that's right. But that's exactly right. Like, we lost those conversations. Like, when did we stop talking about these interesting things? And I don't know when it was. But, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to get anybody riled up. Oh, yeah, get your friend riled up.
Yeah. Have a healthy discussion.
Yeah, have a healthy discussion.
That's what you're supposed to do in a Republican, Democrat, or whatever we call ourselves nowadays.
Right. That's exactly right. We're supposed to talk about these things. We're supposed to debate these things. You know, that's how we move forward in our conversations.
Yeah, but Trump, I mean, he definitely destroyed people in those debates, right? I remember like Jeb Bush, like one of the favorites, right? And of course, like Trump like destroyed him on something, right? And Jeb Bush just like ignored it, right? Where he should like went back and attack, right? And so he didn't attack, and people, oh, Jeb Bush is a weak guy, right? He can't be president, right? And then he went from like 12% to like 1.2% the next day, right? It
was crazy because he was a front runner.
Yeah, and like he had all the policy experience, like everything, right?
Yeah.
And he just backed down, you know. Yeah. Okay, like I'm not here to argue with Mr. Trump. He's a policy. I'm like, dude, you're a fucking weak punk, right?
Right. No, I think, you know, I think one thing about Trump is, you know, he just brought this different, obviously, he brought a different sort of, you know, I don't know. Like, I'm Trump, you're not. Yeah. I do what I want. Like, even now, like, I can declassify documents just by thinking it, right? Right. Yeah. Like, really, dude? Like, come on now. I decided. But you know, it just lowered the, you know, it goes back to it. You know, when did the conversation stop, right? Yeah. And you know, unfortunately, for Jeb Bush, nobody knew what was coming from Trump, right? I mean, I think everybody was like, okay. It's like he had no filter. Whatever he thought, you know. Yeah. And then you know, but Jeb Bush, whether you like him or not, he was a qualified individual. Yeah, he's damn qualified. Yeah. Of course, a lot of people like, you know, do you really want to know the Bush or Clinton office, right? This is like a monarch dynasty, right? Right. One thing with Trump that he proved, for good or bad, in America is great because anyone can get elected president. In America is bad because anyone can get elected president. I agree.
You just gotta be, I think you just gotta be 35 years old.
Right.
Like people are saying, how can Trump run? There's nothing constitutional about, all you law saying if you have felony convictions or what the case may be, say you gotta be 35.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No more, no less.
I think maybe, after this next run or at some point, maybe like you looked at it.
Oh yeah, definitely. It has to be like 70 or below, I think,
well, and like when we look at like folks in the Senate that are 90,
like Dianne Feinstein for California, like no one's heard her speaking like in 2 years. He's in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, like in the past, I've always been, my thing, term list is of voters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like if you're a district, state of Kentucky, and Mr. McConnell serving your interest, doesn't matter if he doesn't serve interest the rest of the country, or maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, or any state you're in, right? You're voting for that state, that representative, that district's best interests.
Yeah.
They really don't vote for like you go to vote for a House representative who represents Edmond, you're not thinking, I wonder what the person that lives in Charlotte, North Carolina would think about my decision.
Yeah.
It's not in your thought process.
And it's I go back and forth like on term limits. I don't know. But I think there needs to be more control over like the side hustles that all our folks have. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like you use the word again. It's kind of icky that someone's making pay. Like I think they paid $200,000 a year or something like that. Whatever the number is, and 4 years later they were like $25 million or something like that. Like, man, what's her name? The Pelosi. Like her husband is a better stock picker than what's that guy's name? The one from Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh,
man, I can't think of his name.
The company or
the guy.
The guy.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I totally know.
Yeah, like his record is better than him, right? Like, come on now, that's impossible.
Well, and we see so many people in the Senate and the House that just have like a wildly successful stock, right?
Yeah.
So I would be totally in favor of folks not being able to trade in the stock market while they're serving,
Yeah.
because it is a public service job.
Yeah.
That.
And then how do you do like serve one term and you get retirement for the rest of your life?
Yeah, that's kind of, and I think in the House it's 2 terms though, isn't it?
Maybe so. Yeah, maybe it's 2 terms. Yeah.
But
still,
that's cushy.
Yeah.
Hello. Or maybe it's a minimum 4 years or something.
Or then like, you getting paid, like let's say they get paid $500,000 a year. I don't know what it is, but then they spend like millions and millions of dollars to get elected. Like the math doesn't work out right.
Yeah. Well, and I'm totally in favor of some campaign finance oversight. Where's all this money coming from? And maybe we don't need to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars for your seat.
So regardless of party or philosophy, any kind of thing, who would be your dream ticket for president or vice president? Like if they announce they could be Republican, Democrat, whatever the case may be, far left, whatever the case may be. If they say, you know what, we're going to buck the trend, we're going to run as president or vice president, you're like, okay, I'm volunteering for you. I'm on board.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I really like Gavin Newsom right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like him a lot. Who would he be, vice president or president? Who would be the other one? I don't know who the other one would be. I would say a young Joe Biden, because I think he's done a great job. But but I think I don't know. I think Gavin Newsom was who I'd get behind. Gavin Newsom and a woman for sure. I just can't think of which one. I don't know. Maybe Michelle Obama. I mean, those are kind of easy picks for just sitting here. Yeah, that would be my dream ticket this second.
So back to 2016, everyone presumed like there's no way Trump can win, Hillary's gonna win, and they came out. I can make this up. Like stats show, like no, a lot of women actually voted for Trump versus Hillary because like everyone is like a lot of people like no, we want a female president, but not Hillary, right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of bit people in the butt, so to speak, because then Trump put 3 judges on there, overturned Roe versus Wade. It's like if you were just voted for Hillary, nothing would happen, right? But it was such an anti-Hillary thing going on at the time, right?
Yeah, there was. I know people that didn't vote for Hillary because they didn't like the sound of her voice. I'm like, all right, yeah.
That's kind of odd reason. I mean, but yeah, okay.
Right, okay, but it's it was tough, and there's so much.
Talking about someone being qualified. She was way qualified.
Without question.
I mean, senator, former president's wife,
Secretary of
Secretary of State,
right?
like, yeah.
She was really,
Now,
really,
now, if you read like the tabloids, the books and stuff, she might, ruffle a few feathers, and destroyed a few careers. Maybe, some people say she had people killed, like, and all the controversy back to Whitewater and all that kind of stuff, that's like Benghazi. So she definitely had a lot of baggage, right? But about qualified, yeah, she's probably more qualified than anyone who's ran in the history of the stuff.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. It's, it's so hard. And not just Hillary, but like anybody, there's just so much, negative spin on so many things. And I think there's so many people that just rely on what they read or what their friend says or whatever that, yeah.
And for me, I think just my own self-interest, how entertaining would it have been to have Hillary Clinton president and William Clinton first man? That would have been off the chain. Like,
I mean,
all the trouble we got is the president. You're like, hey, I'm not president, but I can do what I want. Like, I'm not saying we're doing interns. I can do what I want to. I bring all these people to come in, right? I'm just the first man. Like, that'd been wild, right?
I think it would have been cool. I mean, everything else aside, I think that would have been cool.
And of course, you had some people who would say, I know Hillary's the president, but Bill's really running the show, right? You'd have people still saying that, of course,
Oh, you for sure would have had people saying that, right?
Because I can say in that press conference, Hillary said, like, President Hillary Clinton says, this is the policy. As some dumbass, like, did you check with Bill on that?
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
That guy would have been dead the next day.
Yeah. It's so sad, I guess, is, we still have that, right? There's still this female, male, it's kind of like, like leadership, right? Like, I grew up in the command and control style of leadership. Like, my dad was a manager at this, manufacturing firm, and you led by, a firm, stand on everything. But I think that's still,
I mean, you see comedy skits all the time on Saturday Night Live, different places, like, people are talking. This lady was like, this talking, we should do this. Nah, that's crazy. Not even 2 seconds later, some dude, we should do this. Great idea. I literally just said that. No, you didn't. You said this over here.
Yeah. Oh, so obviously, I've been in the working world for decades. And so what I got really good at saying is, thank you, Bob, for highlighting my point. Or because I cannot tell you the number of times where I've said something and it's like, hey, whatever. And then somebody else will say something and everybody's like, oh, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard.
And so what keeps you from, like, just getting a knife and slashing in the throat, like,
It's, it's weird, but it's, it took a long time though to, like, even get to a point in those meetings where I could say that. I spent a lot of time like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't present it well.
Yeah, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I don't communicate properly.
Exactly. Like, okay, man.
But he did say exact word for word what I said, Maybe it's my tone of voice or inflection, or, maybe I didn't stand up, who knows?
I know. Well, and I went through the phase of, I just said that. That doesn't land well.
It probably makes it worse.
It makes it worse. So I found.
Oh, so you're trying to take credit for this person did?
So I just found, but thank you for highlighting what I just said, but just said very softly and nicely. And that was the most effective way of addressing it. But
yeah. So what's your take? So Washington's like, I think it's called, Washington's is it called blue? It's a blue state, right?
Yeah.
Has Washington, you lived here all your life, right?
I have, yeah.
Has Washington always been a blue state? Has always been, ever been red? Like, for example, like Texas, people was like Texas conservative. People don't realize, like, for the longest time, Texas was a Democratic state. And then 1980, it became Republican. Then the Democrats took back over. Aaron Richards was governor for a couple of times. And then when George Bush, he upset her in like 94, and they've been conservative since 94. So Texas only really been conservative Republican since 94. People think like since the 1800s is not right. So I wonder, has like Washington changed hands back and forth? It's been pretty much blue the whole time.
I want to say that it's been blue as far as I know, although I think everywhere went red with the Reagan election. I think pretty much,
That's true, yeah.
But my parents were very conservative, and when I turned 18, I'm like, I'm what my parents were or are. And, but I think looking back, I think Washington always leaned blue. Like that's my lived experience. It's pretty liberal.
And with that, like, of course, like Seattle down Olympia, that quarter is like very liberal. But like, if you go to Eastern Washington, other places, like, it's not so liberal, right?
No, very different. Yeah.
And of course, people, I realize, like, I'd like to say, if you're a Republican in Washington, you might be a liberal in Texas, right? Because
Possibly, right?
like, different policies are different, right? And then if you're like a liberal in Texas, like, you come here like, no, you're not liberal at all, right? You might be a moderate Republican, but you're definitely not liberal, right?
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. There's definitely a range. So
yeah. And so you're living like Edmond area for most of your life, or?
Yep. Yeah. I always thought I would move far away, and I didn't. I literally live I live on the other side of the water from Edmonds, but if I were in Edmonds, I would literally be within 2 miles of the hospital I was born at.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I didn't go far. I thought I would.
Yeah.
But...
Can you talk about the Edmond Bowl? I've been there a couple of times. Edmond Bowl is like this is a nice place.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite places in the world. It's and having grown up in the area, I've just watched it go from like this sleepy little cute, waterside town to it has fabulous restaurants. Like, it is worth the drive to Edmonds to go to the restaurants they have there now. And they've got fun little bars and down and shop and get, you can get midday cocktails, which is always fun.
Oh, yeah. Day drinking is the best.
Day drinking, super fun.
Day drinking is the best.
Cheers.
And so Edmonds actually has like a world famous resident, don't they? Rick Steves. I literally recently learned there, right? Like, how random is that? Like, this guy who's world famous, travels all over the world.
Yeah.
Lives in all the places in Edmond, Washington, right? Of all the places.
Yeah. And what's funny is I was out to, and Rick Steves was at the table next to me. And I've never run into Rick Steves ever. So
you do live here.
Yeah. I'm like, that's Rick Steves.
It would be hard for me not to, I'm not a photograph guy, autograph guy. It would be hard for me not to say like something, because I watch all his shows, other stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of his, right?
Yeah.
It would be hard. I would probably like this be staring at him, right?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I think I was just too into my glass of wine and my pizza because I was really hungry. But and I didn't even notice him at first until people started going over and taking pictures with him. And I'm like, oh,
that has to be kind of old. I mean, he has to be used to it, he's a public figure, right?
Yeah. And he was super nice.
Yeah. People taking pictures and stuff.
Yeah. And he took a picture with everyone that asked. Yeah. So, and now that I think about it, I didn't even capture a picture of him at all. I just watched. But yeah, it was kind of cool.
So with you being a political junkie, you think you ever run for office yourself?
No. But if I lived my life again, or if I could go back, yeah. It's, but yeah, I don't want to now.
Yeah. Like, why put yourself through all that mess, right?
Yeah.
To find all the skeletal bones in your closet. Like, Tami skipped school in the 7th grade. She'll make a horrible whatever, or she missed a payment, or whatever the case would be, or even worse, when her kid was in 8th grade, Tami didn't do whatever, That's ridiculous. Terrible. Like, why run? Why put yourself through that? Unless your plan is to become a millionaire off the stock tips,
Well, and I would want to run because like, I really want to, do good and help bring change. And right now I feel like I'm just doing the best with my time, with my skill set right now, so I've picked out this little thing that I'm going to work on, which is, middle income affordable housing. That's what I'm going to work on. And I'm going to do it for a while. And
I would want to run for House of Representatives for a reason, right? You have to think, you get this brief, like, oh shit, there's really are aliens out there, right? Like, they tell you the real deal, right? This is why you can't do that, or like, we're actually like some kind of puppet regime, right? Other conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, you get the real dirt.
Yeah.
Get in there. Yeah. Show me what we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to know all of it for real. I think I'd rather just speculate.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. I'm going to sit in that. I'm going to sit in that space with that stuff.
So back to housing. How does Seattle become a real estate tech hub, so to speak? Like, Redfin's here. I don't know, off the top of my head, like 4 or 5 people trying to do tech startups, real estate tech startups. How did Seattle become like a real estate tech hub, so to speak?
I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I did. When Redfin came about, and Zillow started in Seattle too, I think, right? Yeah. I was a traditional, agent working just at a regular firm. And when Redfin launched, we traditional agents, we did not like Redfin. Like, what are
I've heard that a lot from like people like say like, we're anti-Redfin, they're like disrupting the industry. They're not disrupting, they're destroying the industry, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that.
Well, and Redfin started on the wrong foot with the industry, right? Because they had to shift their model, and they did a really great job of pivoting and creating a better model to work with the industry. But when they first launched, their agents didn't go out in person, and so they would call like the listing agents to show houses, and all the listing agents, we all got pissed about that. Like, yeah, come on, go meet your clients. So it was really easy to hate Redfin, and it was funny because when I did go to work for Redfin,
so you became a trader.
Yeah, and I had to go like to all my industry friends, and by then I'd been licensed, I'd been an agent for like 12 years or something. And I just had to go, and I'm like, okay, everybody, I'm going to Redfin. and I loved Redfin. I had a fabulous time working for Redfin.
So what's your recently, a lot of big corporations are buying like hundreds of houses, right? Like not one here, but like really like hundreds of houses in neighborhoods, and the plans to rent them out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be detrimental to the American dream of buying a home, right?
Yeah, they should stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they should knock it off. It's not cool.
Is there any way that can be stopped, or just?
Well, yeah, I think so. I don't have the answers to that one, but I would, I don't know what it would be, but it would be more rules.
I'm guessing corporations are like basically doing cash offers, right?
Oh yeah.
And I have to imagine like how like suppose I'm selling a house. How would I know it's even corporate focused on, right? Like yeah. How do you know?
Well, on the contract, it has the name of the seller or the buyer.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I don't think they're trying to be necessarily sneaky about it. Yeah. I think they're just saying, corporation, big boy.
Yeah. If your house will say your house worth $300,000, all the offers like $275, $250, $280, and this corporation comes with a $400,000 offer. Like, once again, everyone has like wants to be a good person, but that's a lot of money to turn down, right?
That's
especially when you determine you're going to buy no matter what, sell no matter what, move somewhere else, right? Like,
yeah.
You're gonna do a lot more with your life and a lot more for your family at $400,000 versus $200,000.
Yeah, and we couldn't ask that of anybody, right? I mean, again, you can't ask sellers to donate their proceeds to a buyer just to do the right thing. Right?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a communist society, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. That's not going to work. But I think there's, I think there could be different rules put in place to prevent the big corporations from owning more than, I don't know.
Or maybe some rule, it's hard to live, like there's some rule, like in like one neighborhood, you can have more like 5% of your homes owned by one person,
Yeah.
Then with that, what if you got like an individual landlord who has like 10% of homes in the neighborhood, right? Just because it's,
Yeah, they could be grandfathered in, the ones that already own it. But yeah, I think, it's kind of like, it goes back to talking to your neighbors and knowing your neighbors and it's like how important it is for communities to be a community, right? It's so different, I don't know.
So next, talk about the concept of everyone either being or having a lifeboat.
Okay. So
see, I did my research.
Thank you. So it was like, I don't know, a couple months into the pandemic, like 2020. And like everybody, I was baking bread and gardening. And I would garden with my headphones on and listen to podcasts. And I was listening to the Sam Harris podcast. And he was with Will McCaskill, who is just a philosopher. And Sam Harris is just ridiculously smart and also a philosopher and some other thing too. But so what they were saying is basically, what we have is a lifeboat problem, right? We don't have enough lifeboats for everybody. And that really struck me because I'd been wrestling with like feeling crappy about like what we were doing as a real estate industry in helping or in contributing to the affordable housing situation. So when I started thinking about it, I was like, I think we get a little bit in our thoughts on giving, right? And I think thoughts on giving where it's like, okay, I'm going to give $100. So I want my $100 to go I'm going to give it to pause, but I only want my $100 to feed animals. I don't want my $100 used to raise more money. Or really that $100 could be put to better use by spending, 50 on feeding puppies and another 50 on raising an extra $500, right? But we don't think about it like that, right? We've got these weird barriers to giving. So, and the other thing is, just because you're giving, it doesn't mean you have to be a martyr, right? So and it was super visual for me. Like, I'm in a lifeboat. I can be in a really nice lifeboat, like maybe with Netflix and an open bar, and there's room for like 15 people. I could squish 30 on, but I don't have to. I can still do good by bringing an extra few on, and we can still have this comfy lifeboat. And maybe that guy over there, he wants to put 30 on, and that's cool. And maybe they don't want to put anybody else on theirs, and that's cool too. But we have to acknowledge, right, that some people have a better boat, and we can all probably do a little bit more.
Now, is the risk with that, to push back a little bit, is the risk with that, you have a boat with like 20 people. You have 20 people, you're giving people, you're giving person, man, I can fit more and more. But then before you know, you have 30 people, the boat capsizes, and then everything's destroyed. If you were just knowing your limits.
Yep.
What's that saying? Like, take care of yourself first, because an empty vessel can't take care of other people or something like that,
Yeah, I think you do have to know your limits. And I've spent so much time thinking about this because, like, how much do I give? Like, just because I say I'm going to address this issue, does that mean I have to like sell my house and live in a shitty house, or like?
Yeah. If you're like worse off, if you end up being worse off than the person to help out, that kind of defeats the purpose, right?
Yeah, it does. And so it's kind of like what I'm trying to prove is, like, we can still have agents that make a great living and are doing good, right? Yeah. Because they're gonna keep their Netflix and wine or whatever it is, right? You don't have to give up everything.
It should be a time when you stop helping. Like, suppose, like, I'm making this up, like there's like Tom Jones, right? And you always giving him, and like, but he never improves, right? Is there a time where you say, okay, I've given my limit, right? This guy's not improving. This person's not improving. It's time for me to cut ties. Or you just like keep on giving until something changes?
That's tough. That's really tough. I think when we give so for example, like when we say we'll cover closing costs, we do it on the honor method. If you say you need the help, we're going to help you. But that means that somebody that doesn't need the help is going to get the money, right? Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay. Because what I really want to do is make it an easy experience for everybody else that actually needs it. Now, if that person were to come back, probably wouldn't do it again, right? Because that's not cool. But like in the general giving, I don't know. I would say probably I'm not going to continue.
Okay.
If there's no benefit to either party. And if my giving isn't helping, then maybe I'll give over there and that'll help.
So if I on your website, you give 80% of your profits away.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? Like, most people, like 80% of your profits. How are you gonna stay in business? What's going on? Like, are you a nonprofit? What are you doing over there?
Right. It's hard. Well, and it's up to 80%. It lands right about, it varies, but it lands right around 70%. But sometimes we're giving away 100% of the commission we make on something. And so the way it works is we work with people that don't need assistance. And I'm just going to use really easy numbers. So, if we make $10,000 in commission, we're going to use, 2,000 of that and pay the agent. And then we're going to use 8,000 of that. And we're going to put it into a fund to give back to buyers that need it.
So does the amount of money you give back affect the commission you give to the salespeople?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. They make what they make.
Okay.
And part of that is, it's important that people understand that people can still make an excellent living and a comfortable living and drive a fancy car or whatever else they want to do with their great money, right? And do good, right? Yeah. They don't have to be martyrs. All of our agents can make, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year range. And that's a lot of money, right? I don't see anybody making $1 million a year, which they could do out in the traditional world, right? We're not really set up for that.
So why is doing good so important to you and your company?
Oh boy. I just feel like it's the right thing to do. I have been so incredibly fortunate in my career and my life, and I've worked really hard, but I've also gotten really lucky. And I know a lot of people have worked really hard that didn't get as lucky. And I didn't do anything extra special or different. I happened to be in a great industry. This could have not been this way,
Yeah.
right? So no,
That's in your DNA, so to speak.
I think so. Yeah, it feels like the right thing to do. And
So after Redfin, you work for a company called, I think it's called Flight Homes.
uh-huh.
So what is Flight Homes? It's like another Redfin type of company, or it's like something totally different?
Ish, kind of totally different. But Flight Homes came on the scene, I think in 2015, 2016. And they started, I'm pretty sure they started, the two co-founders went to graduate school together, and I think Fly Homes was their project. And what they did is instead, so at the time, Redfin offered a rebate. And so Fly Homes, and this is how they got their name, is they offered a rebate in the form of miles. Like they don't do this anymore. This is way, way old. But I remember I was working for Redfin at the time, and I was here in Seattle, and I came across Fly Homes, and I was like, what is this crazy company doing? But they would offer dollar for dollar. So if you bought an $800,000 house, they give you 800,000 air miles. And I was like, can you imagine what you can do with 800,000 air miles? Like, I'm going to fly first class to Dubai and drink cocktails and sip champagne, for 15 hours. Probably a bad idea like that, but and that actually didn't last very long. But they shifted into offering cash, being a cash offer organization. So if they helped people make cash offers that couldn't otherwise make cash offers, so they would basically kind of float the money. I'm really simplifying what they did, but it was a super hot market. Cash was king. They came up with a product that offered, regular home buyers the ability to make a cash offer.
So this is like a multi-layer question, right? Like, how do your time at Redfin and Fly Homes get you ready to be an entrepreneur? And what made you decide to become an entrepreneur?
So my dad was always an entrepreneur. So my dad and my parents, had companies while I was growing up. So, they were almost always self-employed. My time at Redfin and Fly Homes, I had a great time in both organizations and learned so much. But they're profit driven. It's about profit. It's about market share. And then again, watching house prices increase, watching more and more people price out of homes, but watching our profits and our market share increase. We're like, eh. And so I thought, is this what I want to spend my time doing? Like, not really. Like, I'd rather spend my time kind of spreading this out a little bit. Like, sure, it's always fun to make more money, but at what expense? Like, I'm already having a comfortable life. And then you're just in this weird gravy land where you're like, okay, sorry, you guys can't buy a house anymore because they're too expensive, but so that was it. I was like, I don't want to spend my time figuring out how to maximize profits. And when I started my organization, I spent a long time trying to figure out if I wanted to seek funding or not. And ultimately, I opted not to. And I think it's actually one of the beautiful parts of our organization is we do not now and we never will answer to shareholders or investors, which means we don't have to have record profits every year. And we won't, because if we're making that much extra money, we're going to spread it out to our employees. People are going to make more.
So are you, I think it's called I think it's called Social B Corporation.
Yeah, no, we're not. We're actually just a regular old corporation, but I would say that we are a double bottom line organization in that we look at, we are for profit. Like, we do actually intend to make money. But for the double bottom line, we're looking at, what is our profit and how much good are we doing? Like, there's two metrics that we're.
So how come you didn't go with the, what's it called? Like,
it's
B,
it's a corporation B.
Yeah, how come you decide not to go that route?
I didn't know about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, I didn't know about it, And I didn't know exactly what I was going to do when I formed my organization. And I set up my organization, I think in 2019. So it was even before I left Fly Homes. I knew I was going to do something different. I just wasn't sure exactly what it looked like. And it took a while for it to actually take shape.
And if all your transactions, real estate items, or whatever you want to call it, happen in Seattle, or like you have transactions like different across the United States?
No, we're only in Washington right now. I'm also licensed in Oregon, but we're not doing anything in Oregon right now.
Any plan like expand the empire, so to speak, anytime soon?
We will expand the empire as the need arises and our ability to do so arises. Yeah, it's I would love to. I mean, I think it's a great business model. It's not going to appeal to everybody, and that's okay. We don't all have to love everybody. That's all right.
What's that you realize now when you first started, you didn't realize that this certain aspects would be that tough?
Oh boy,
And you can't say everything. You have to say something specific.
I think one of the challenges is recognizing that I'm not good at everything. Number one, I already knew I wasn't good at everything, but I also don't want to burden people, right? And so I was slow to tap into my network for help in different things. And I think one of the other challenges is just, realizing that there's just some things that are out of your control. I don't know what to do here. Like this thing, I have no idea what to do. I don't know who to call, and I think that's the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur is, number one, recognizing that it's okay to reach out to people, that you're not necessarily burdening your sphere by saying, hey, I've got this problem. Do you have any ideas on a solution? Or do you know someone I should talk to? And then just I gotta say, I lost more nights sleep as an entrepreneur than I ever had before, but worried about people that have like hitched their wagon to me, right? Like, gosh, I hope this works out.
Yeah, people don't realize that, like, not only like entrepreneurs are just hiring someone about it's particular. People, it's like you're not only hiring Jason, you're hiring Jason's family, right?
Yeah.
And because the decisions you make, good or bad, affects that family. Because like you make a bad decision, you might lose a company and that person has no job, right? Or and people don't take into consideration that much, I think.
Yeah, and that and the people part is I don't know, it's just so weighty. Like it's so weighty. Like I just don't want to do wrong by opted to join me.
So how you like balance that, right? You have to make a decision. Like how do you balance taking care of your employees versus taking a company, right? Because you don't take care of the company, there's no job to pay them. You don't take care of employees, there's no company, so that's to be a tough balance, right?
Yeah, it is a tough balance. And I think it's a tough balance whether you're an entrepreneur or not, right?
Yeah, be just a regular sales manager somewhere,
Yeah, just
a mid-level manager or McDonald's manager,
right. I mean, if it's full, right? I mean, and I think that's where it gets really hard sometimes, like when you're in an organization that is not yours, you're pulled in two different directions, right? Because you might have upper management saying, we've got, these metrics, metrics, and then you've got these people, right? That you need to.
And like Bob, father just died, he can't be really focused, or, it's all in on the month of June, right? Because whatever company, but in June, this new hire, he knows that every June his family goes on a family vacation, the whole family for a week in June, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I think are so important, right? And it's kind of like the work-life balance thing we were talking about earlier. Like it's different for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Number one, thinking of it as balance, you're gonna drive yourself crazy.
Oh yeah. I have to work 8 hours. I have to take a break for 3 hours. That's ridiculous.
It's just, but I think people need to own that themselves. Like, and I think good leadership allows them to do that. But yeah, I think it's just a challenge, and I think it always has been in any role that works with other people, that influences other people in any way.
Yeah. So what does your company actually do?
What do we actually do? So,
and how do you say the company name?
Xequity.
Okay.
Like it sounds like a Z, but it's an X.
And why is the X small versus big? It has to be by design, right?
Yeah, it's by design. So have you heard of the author Bell Hooks?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so Bell Hooks is this amazing author, or was this amazing author, and she did not capitalize her first and last name, just as kind of a humility thing. And I was so just moved by her that I went with a lower.
And the name itself, I'm guessing it has some kind of meaning, right? It's just not a random name, right?
Yeah, no, it's not random. So naming a company is really hard work. And I actually had
Can you say that again? People don't realize how hard that shit is, right?
Naming a company is really hard work. It's
you have to have like the Facebook, the com, the CO. You got to make sure it means something like bad in another language.
Yeah, it's so hard. But we came across it because equity, right? So we started with equity because we're trying to equalize to some degree, right? The opportunity to own a home. X because it's cool. Yeah. Also, X being like the multiplier. Like we're going to be the multiplier and getting people from, thinking about owning a home to owning a home. So there was just all of that is what went into it. Now, I will say choosing a name that starts with X is confusing because nobody knows how to pronounce a name that starts with X. So like in my email signature, I've got it in parentheses.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So Xequity. But at some point you just have to choose. You're like, okay, that looks good. Let's go with that one. But yeah, we found the .com and the .org and I think we had to pay a little extra for the .com, but there's nothing available out there. I mean, you'd just be making up some random nothing to get all of the things.
I said this for my podcast. My name, my company's like Kevin's HR. I told myself I've never been the douchebag who needs my company starts off. I've never do it right. But I looked through so many names, like names I like someone already had, like on and on. I wasted too much time, right?
Yeah.
And finally, this guy named Nick Hughes said, Jason, this name you come after yourself, right? You're spending so much time, right? It's it's an easy name to say. It's not like it's like Howalowitz or nothing like that, or like 6 E's and 2 B's, whatever. Just go with that, right? For now, right? It's okay. I guess I'll be that douchebag who needs to come after himself.
Yeah, and I would have actually done that because it is. I mean, I think it's fine.
Yeah, when you think about it, like Mercedes-Benz, Harley-Davidson, all these name brand companies, Sean John, are named after the people started, right? You know, like.
Yeah, and I think that would have been fine. And the one reason that I avoided my name is I wanted to make sure that the focus was never on me.
Yeah.
Going out and pushing to this public thing. And so that was the one reason I didn't do that.
Yeah. So how do you make money? What's the business model?
Yeah. So the business model is commission. I mean, it's just like a real estate
commission.
brokerage.
Okay.
Yeah. We earn
and does the commission change based on any criteria, or it's the same commission each time?
Well, sellers in Washington choose their commission amount, right? They determine paid on a transaction to either the buyer's agent or the seller's agent. And that's how we earn money. So, like any other for-profit real estate brokerage is we earn commission, and that's where our profit comes from.
Who's like your perfect customer?
My perfect customer? Well, there would be two. There would be one that does not need any assistance, right? That loves the mission we're on and wants to contribute to it. And then there would be one that does need assistance. Go home because of this customer, right? I mean, these two balance each other out.
So how do you let people know what you're doing? Like you have a marketing campaign, social media, word of mouth. Like how do you get this word out about what you're doing?
Yeah, well, gosh, that's also turned out to be really hard to do. So we have LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We're trying to push content out weekly, which is also really challenging. I mean, man, there's a lot to do. But yeah, so we do Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Have you found like one social media that's really like performing for you versus other ones? Of course, performing for you can mean totally different things, of course.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn. Actually, we get a lot of people reaching out through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, which I didn't expect it to be that way.
Yeah.
But it is, and but yeah, people like it, and then they send somebody else, and which is how it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So how do you take care of yourself?
How do I take care of myself? Well, I don't exercise enough. And I don't meditate enough.
But a glass of wine equals like 2 minutes, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. I do drink wine. I do try to be mindful, right? Which is really hard, and because it doesn't come naturally to me. If we were in my office right now, you would see all of these sticky notes all around the computer screen and they're just mindfulness notes, right? And I try to do that. And then, as silly as it sounds, I try not to sit at my desk all day long. And I will sit at my desk all day long.
I do my best, like at least hopefully 2 or 3 times a day, just get up and walk around the block or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's hard to do, unfortunately, right?
It is hard to do. It is really hard to do. And so I try to do that. And then, I do, like, I'll set like an alarm on my phone, and I call it my gratitude timer. Half the time I just shut it off, and I don't sit there and think, like, but I keep trying. And I keep trying. Yeah, I like to read a lot of self-help stuff. I don't always implement it, but I get a little bit something out of each thing. I add a new post it to my.
How many people are on your team right now?
There's 4 of us.
Okay.
Yeah, we're pretty small right now.
And so obviously, you do well, you're going to grow, whatever.
Yeah.
How, what do you look for in a real estate agent, or what you want to call them, right?
Yeah.
So Tupac, what do you look for in them, and how do they, like, suppose you're going to hire someone tomorrow, right? What would they need to do to convince you?
They would have to align with our mission, right? They would have to feel passionately about the social justice piece of what we're doing. They don't have to be an experienced agent, but I will say that when new agents do come on board, they do have to work with an experienced agent as a mentor, because at the end of the day, we are still real estate brokers, and we need to deliver, knock your socks off service.
Is there such a thing as like a real estate intern, where like somebody comes to you and say, hey, I haven't taken my license yet, I want to be a real estate agent. Can I intern, low level job until I get my agent license and then work for you full time? Does that even exist?
Yeah, okay. It can. And heck yeah, I would totally do that,
Okay.
And I think, I think the cultural fit is more important than I'm already licensed thing, right?
Okay.
License is easy to get. We can get anybody to do that. But yeah, I think just a good fit, with the mission and the team, I think that's so valuable.
So in your years doing this, what's the craziest or most observed house you sold or bought? Of course, crazy and observed could be anything you define as that, right?
Oh boy. Ooh. I have seen some crazy houses. Boy, let me think. I have seen, oddly enough, people do really crazy things with bathrooms and toilets. Like, you'll find toilets in like very odd places sometimes in a house. You're like, you want to call and say, what was going on here?
Yeah, what's
why is there a toilet in the corner of the living room? Like,
what? That's weird. Oh my goodness, yeah.
There's just some crazy stuff. Or like doors that, and typically it's like a remodel where somebody didn't think of everything through all the way, or measure properly, maybe. Yeah, there's but I can't think of like any super crazy thing. The worst thing that ever happened to me was I was touring a house by myself, and it was a really big house, and really big. And this was during the big crazy market downturn, right, in the 2008-ish. And so I'm touring this house. It's empty. I think it was bank owned. And I got downstairs, and there's no power on, so I've got my little iPhone flashlight on. I round the corner, and my brain is like not quite catching up to my eyes, because there's a sleeping bag, there's a cooktop, and there's a lit candle. And I couldn't get out of that friggin' house fast enough.
I can imagine, yeah.
Holy shit, there's somebody in this house, and I'm like 2 floors down.
Yeah.
And after that, I thought twice about going into bank-owned homes, because, as a real estate agent, you're touring them all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought twice after that. Like, okay, is the power on?
I remember I saw this one house on whatever it was. It was so cool, right? And like, they had like a speakeasy in the house, right? Like, you had like, it was like it was like a bookshelf that did the book thing, and it go up and downstairs, like big fancy speakeasy, everything in it. I had a speakeasy game room. Like, oh my God, that's so freaking cool.
Oh yeah.
I always like the houses too. Like, they have like wine cellars in them, right? Like, man, like if you have a wine cellar in your house, you're pretty well off, right?
Right.
I'll just go down the wine cellar, pick out one 100 bottles of wine I have down there, like, yeah, you're living pretty comfortable.
I have a wine closet,
Mm.
and I keep telling my husband, like, before we ever sell our house, I'm gonna paint it red so that we can call it the wine cellar. Because I think that's all I need is a closet painted red, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And is a wine cellar 2 bottles of wine, 1,000 bottles of wine? It's up to you what a wine cellar is, right?
It's up to you, right? It's,
yeah.
Just put a few in there.
I mean, as long as the wine's not Strawberry Booze Farm or nothing like that, it has to be like some kind of, you need to do some kind of, level of wine.
Those used to be good.
Yeah.
1985, I would have gone for that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So who are your mentors?
Boy, I have a couple people in my personal life that I seek their advice. My dad was an entrepreneur, so I love to chat with my dad. And it's also funny to talk to my dad though, because he retired 25 years ago, and he led a different sort of business. He led manufacturing organizations, and but he's super smart, and he's just got some really great ideas that are so different from my own. So I really love kind of going to my dad for some things, even though we're very, very different. Yeah.
And who are you mentoring?
I have agents that I mentor, like people that want to get into real estate, people that are new in real estate. I think so, I have random people that I somehow just end up connecting with and talking to them, and most of them end up being like my kids' age.
I'm the same. It's crazy. Like I would say I have so many kids, like not kids, like people 20s, 30s, like coming for advice, start talking, right? But it's really crazy. Like my own kids, no, like,
right?
Yeah, like they're like, get out of here. You know what we're talking about, but people their age all the time. It's kind of crazy, right? Like, I don't understand it. I never will.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's frustrating too, right? Like I can help you with this and that. No, you can't. There was some random kid I meet somewhere, like you reached out to me on LinkedIn. Hey, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Most of my kids are pretty good about seeking advice as needed and taking it. But they're working their way through and figuring their own stuff out.
You got to be there for them, right?
Yeah. Got a little soft pad for them to crash on if they're gonna do that. But
so this might be a tough question for you.
Right.
How does your company fail?
Oh boy, I think there's probably 1,000 ways. I think the company fails if we're not able to get at least one person into a house every year.
Okay.
If even we can help one.
That seems like a pretty reasonable goal, just one house a year.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty low bar. I would hope we would do better than that.
Yeah, I would think your bar needs to be a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I would hope, but I like to think affect even one family's ability to buy a home. That's success, and if we aren't able to do that, I think we fail.
Nice. So different entrepreneurs do different things. Famously, Elon Musk works 100 hours a week, supposedly. I have like one friend, he works 21 straight days, takes 3 days off. Middle 1-3, right?
Yeah.
Like the 3 days, he completely cuts everything off, right? No phone, no nothing. He just like hibernates, whatever. And different people do different things. You gotta do what's best for you. What have you found works best for you?
What works best for me is actually just extending the same grace I extend to other people to myself, and going away. Like a couple of weeks ago, my husband and I took our sailboat up to San Juan Islands for 10 days, and I brought all this work with me, and we got up there and our little tiny boat, and we anchored in this harbor. I didn't open my work at all. I had somebody handling clients and stuff. I think that's important though, right? I mean, for me, I have to set, and I don't have a set schedule. Like I work and then I don't work. I feel like for me, they just are smushed together.
Yeah.
Right. But I've done that for decades, and that's fine, and it works for me. But at the same time, I need to be able to step away and have a team I can trust to keep the lights on and not catch anything on fire while I'm gone. And I think that's so valuable, just to have a trusted team that allows you to go, unexpectedly to the San Juans for 10 days. I can't do it every month, obviously, but
Yeah. Well, one day you'll be able to do it every month.
I hope so.
Yeah. One day they come and just run by yourself. You'll hire a CEO and a chief of staff and they'll just report to you.
Ideally, I will step away from this organization and then it will be employee owned and I'll just be a consultant to them.
Yeah. So how do your people get paid? Is it strictly commission? Is it a combination of commissions, and salary? How's that work
It's a
for you?
combination. Yeah.
Okay.
it's a combination of base salary.
And then how do you decide that split, so to speak?
We're still working it out, honestly. I came up with the split based on what I thought would be a reasonable income for somebody that has just started in the industry or midway through.
And did you base income on like national average for real estate agents based on Seattle? Like what do you based on Seattle?
Yeah,
Okay.
Seattle.
That's a pretty high rate.
Yeah. For
Kind
sure.
of jacked up. You hire somebody in Seattle, like I'm gonna base your salary on Starkville, Mississippi.
Yeah. I think that's one way that we would fail. Yeah. It's but hey, you can make a great salary and we can do good. We can do both. So
Yeah. How often do you go on social media yourself?
Well, I try not to go on Facebook because it's insidious and I lose.
That's a good word for it. Insidious and icky.
Right. But I do go on Facebook because I follow some sailboat pages and I like to, they're traveling the world, right, in their sailboats because I think that looks like such a cool thing to do. But like LinkedIn,
Okay.
I check in with those probably daily.
And how long have you been selling boats? Is something a skill you obviously learned? You've been doing it for a while.
No, so I started sailing like 20 years ago, and when I say started sailing, I took lessons for like a month, and then I went out a few times in between.
Yeah.
He has sailed for a couple decades.
And you own the boat y'all have?
Yeah, we do.
Are those like pretty expensive? I think when I think of sailboat, I think like $1 million boats.
Oh no. This is like a Honda.
Okay,
Like
the Honda version.
Honda.
So you don't have the Tesla, but you have the Honda.
No, we've got like a 1992 Honda Civic.
Okay.
But you know how it came to be is, so we moved to Kingston, which is a water community, and there's a marina there. My husband, we knew that heading to have a boat, a sailboat. And we heard that the waiting list at the marina was years long. So we got our name on the waiting list.
Yeah.
And our name came up after like a year and a half for a slip at the marina. And if you don't take your slip, you get booted to the back of the line. So we're like, okay, we'll take the slip and then we'll get a boat in a few months. It's like 5 minutes later, my husband's like, hey, I found a boat. I'm like, what?
Of course he did.
Not the time for a boat.
Of course he did.
Yeah. So
you probably like, it's such a great deal. You can't beat it.
Yes, I think that's exactly what he said. And then he said, well, let's just go look at it. So we have an idea. Yeah. Again, we're sailing at home 2 days later.
And he's probably selling the boat more than the actual boat owner is.
Oh yeah, for sure. So that's how we came to have a sailboat.
So is it true that when people buy boats is actually like a money dump, because you're spending so much money on keeping stuff like?
Yes, that is true. My husband he says everything on our boat's broken. We just don't know what thing is broken right now. So, but we're getting more joy out of it than pain. So far, so good.
Are you and your husband like expert swimmers?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we both swim.
So I'm guessing y'all have that life vest tight every single time, right?
Yeah, I am absolutely. You've got to wear your flotation device, right? And yeah, it's always on, and nobody gets to come sail with us without one.
So you went out 10-day trip. What's the longest trip y'all been on?
That one
right there.
Yeah, I had never even.
And so you're on the water 10 days. And so like, how do you plan, what food to bring? Like, because you're like,
oh yeah,
the rations, you want to call it food rations, drink rations,
Well, it was kind of funny because our plan was only to be gone for 3 days. And at the last minute, we both ended up with this window where it was going to be good for us to be gone for a little bit longer. So, and we were planning to leave the next day. So the next day I was like, okay, I'm going to pretend like I'm going camping. What would I make for camping? And then I made like a bunch of meals like that morning. And I was. The
sailboats don't have like stoves and stuff, right? Like no.
Yeah, they do.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah. Well, they don't all, but this one does.
Okay.
Does. And but the fridge in our boat is like a cooler.
Yeah.
It's not really a fridge.
Yeah.
And then it's a pain in the ass because everything is stacked like a cooler, but you're like digging down on the counter. But we did great. We had ham sandwiches for breakfast every morning, which was not planned on, but
Yeah.
you know, it turned out to be ham was on top of the cooler. So every morning I'm like, I don't want to dig down in the ice.
Yeah.
You want a ham sandwich?
Yeah.
So, but we did we docked at a couple different places. So we got off the boat, but we didn't eat out at all.
Okay.
So
I'll make this up, but is there such a thing as like, like Uber Eats when he brings food out to the boat, or like you run out of fuel and some random company fuels you up in the middle of the ocean or something like that?
It's the Coast Guard if you run out of fuel.
Yeah. If that happens, yeah, that's not a good day.
Bring diesel and sandwiches.
That's not a good day.
Yeah, that's a bad day.
Yeah, the Coast Guard is on your boat, in the area of your boat. That's probably things that are going wrong, unfortunately.
Yeah, something. Yeah, hopefully I've never had to call the Coast Guard, but I haven't sailed too much, and I hope I never have to call the Coast Guard.
So you probably don't want to do this in your Honda Civic or sailboat, but is the plan ever like get like a northern night go, like something like do something like that?
Yeah. Actually, my husband and I are right now just kind of talking about like what do the next several years look like for us? Like when we're at that age where we got to kind of think about when we want to retire, how active we want to be, and right now we are definitely talking about getting a bigger boat and going on a big grand adventure.
Any thoughts on like selling your house and just going all in on the sailboat life, so to speak?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know how realistic that is just yet, but I'm going to keep in touch with you because if I do it, I'm going to be like, here I am. No, but there is like, but that's all part of it, right? Like our house again.
And I don't know how old your kids are. Mom, dad, grandparents. Are you kidding me? Like, how are we going to visit you on a sailboat? Like, where's the yard to play in? Like, what's going on here? Like, no, you can't have a midlife crisis on us.
Right. Yeah. No, we do have grandkids. So we've got 2 grandkids. They're 9 and 6, and they're fabulous. But yeah, and I think we get trapped in what we think we're supposed to do. And that's so hard to get out of. But like, I think that I'm supposed to offer this family home. Like we've got a place, all of the kids come for Christmas and
But how often do they actually come for every holiday, right?
Right. And so,
and like how many people like buy this big house? I'm buying this 5-bedroom house. Would it be cheap to buy a 2-bedroom house? Lower payment, just like pay for the hotel rooms if they do come, just give them a nice hotel room.
And that's what we're looking at right now. So like our kids, we're super lucky that they dig hanging out with us. So they do come, but like it's really expensive to own a big house to accommodate your kids.
The electric bills and upkeep. They mentioned though, I won't say time y'all waste, that people waste cleaning a big ass house, but
that's a lot.
Like you had better things to do than dust some random, whatever it is somewhere in a room no one goes to,
Yep. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine recently and I said, my housekeeping standards have gotten lower as I age.
Exactly right.
I don't care. And you know what I hate doing is I hate squeegeeing the shower.
And
I'm like, I hate doing that. So I stopped. And now, I remember why you have to squeegee it because of hard water stains. You gotta work really hard. I'm like, I think I should just buy new glass doors.
Yep.
Like
be easier.
I sell it,
and probably cheap if you say your town's worth like $100 an hour, whatever the case may be, right?
Like, but yeah, that's where we're at right now. Look like, and heck, could we go on a big grand adventure and sell our house and like be crazy?
I remember like reading a story where like a retired married couple like sold everything and they like went all over the world, like different. Remember it was during COVID. They started the trip during COVID. And then they docked somewhere, I think Australia, and like had no idea COVID was going on. And talk about a freaking shock. Like, oh my God, like it could be almost, it's almost the same like, you're in your sailboat, you dock Australia and you find out aliens have taken over the world, right?
Right.
Like with COVID, what's this pandemic? What are you talking about? What do you mean I can't do this,
Can you imagine? Oh my God, when they didn't have masks with them.
Oh no, definitely not, right? Yeah, definitely not. In Australia, it was like when the place.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. That'd be so scary.
And talk about doing what's the best for you. I have a niece, like she's getting ready to decide like a big life decision. I told her not that you ask for advice, my advice to like make decisions what's best for you, right? Not on what you think someone wants, someone feels, what your parents want, or your best friend wants, or do what's best for you. And only you know what's best for you. What's best for you is gonna end up being best for everyone else, right?
I think that is the best advice you can give somebody. I mean, yeah. it's,
because no one has your best interest except for you, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we get trapped by
Oh
all
yeah.
that.
Oh, this person wants me to do this, or I have to take care of this person, or if I live close here, do this, like, like,
Yeah. 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 And that's hard. And
mhm.
the guilt and all
Oh,
that
yeah, the
stuff.
emotion, the guilt, oh, this person did something for me in the past and I'm not there for them, or yeah, sometimes you just got to break tires, right? And do what's best for you.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
So is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't, or anything else you want to talk about?
Uh, Not that I can think of. Could totally just sit here and talk all day, I think, but not that I can think of.
Okay. So next, you're going to talk about your company some, but go into more detail about how the company got started, what you're focused on now, what your big dream vision is for the company moving forward.
So my big dream moving forward. So number one, I want to continue to do what we're doing, right? Which is help people get into homes by giving them a push over the finish line. Moving forward. So I've also started a nonprofit organization, and I haven't talked about it much because we don't have our tax exempt status yet. And that's really hard to get, but we're working on it. But the idea with the nonprofit is what I want to be able to do is, on the front end, of course, help and assist people get into homes. But then I want to be able to, maybe to be able to offer grants to help them remodel a bathroom or replace a garage door, because a lot of first time buyers, they're putting all of their money into paying to live in their house, right? And so maybe they're buying an older house or a house that needs fixing up. If they are responsibly sustaining their home ownership, I would love to be able to offer them a path to build equity a little bit, right? Like, here's, not huge grants, like maybe $5,000 grants to do, a bathroom fix up, or again, just some stuff that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And then the other thing that I do that I want to expand on is I'm trying to put first-time home buyers, I'm trying to connect them to a seasoned homeowner, as their mentor, because a lot of like first generation homeowners, they don't know that you got to put a hose bib on or clean the gutters, they need somebody to guide them. So I'm trying to make sure there's this partnership.
Yeah, I mean, here in Seattle, no, but like some place like Texas, it freezes like 30 degrees. Like you need to know how to get the water, right?
Yeah.
So I was in Texas with my daughter last December, like a month, right? It had like a deep freeze. Half the homes in the neighborhood, like pipes broke because
right.
no one knew like drip the water, right?
Yeah.
They had no clue, no concept.
Yeah. And so I want to be able to have, the homeowner, the mentor is going to call the new homeowner and say, hey, we got a freeze coming in. Maybe you didn't know this. You should do this. Or, now is a good time to, make sure your whatever is checked, or, just those things. Like my parents owned a house. I could call my dad and he would tell me what to do. There's a lot of first-time home buyers that their parents didn't own a house. So I just want to be, I want to be the organization that just keeps giving. Not like, hey, here's a, seed packet because it's the spring and you should plant some tulips, but like, hey, here's some.
Make sure you cut your grass once a week or something that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to do something meaningful with impact. And that's where I see the future of the organization.
Here's a question for you. Like, how does this work, right? I'm totally making this up. I'm sure it happens all the time. Closes a house, right? And we'll say, maybe last year, maybe 10 years before, but like sometime during the house, either something bad happened, either like somebody died in the house, someone got killed in the house, mass murder, whatever bad thing you want to think about, right? Suicide. Like when someone is looking at buying a house, does that stuff have to be told to them, or they have to do the research themselves and find that out?
Yeah, and that's kind of so there's really specific disclosure laws in Washington, and you do not have to disclose that somebody has died in the house. You do have to disclose any material defect. I am a fan of over disclosing, right? I just the right thing to do. I understand there's some sensitive things. And what I've learned over the course of my career is the buyers that's important to will ask.
Yeah. And plus, it'd be one thing, like, this is my opinion, like, if someone, like, if they're selling the house, if someone got killed or died in it, right? That's one thing, right? Maybe 10 years ago, maybe maybe not right. The person who died, his ghost is not in the house, right?
Right.
Like if his ghost is in the house, yeah, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, that might have to be disclosed. Like,
Yeah, if there's a ghost house, that's a
resident.
deal breaker. Like if the outline on the floor where the body is, that outline is there, yeah, that's a deal breaker, you know?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, maybe as a closing gift, you can offer like a smudging or something.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you know, like all the like horror comedy movies, you know, go we buy a house, get out, you know.
Right? Go, can you imagine the welcome basket for that house? You can
Oh.
put all the crazy. Oh, that'd be terrible.
Yeah.
Like funny and terrible all at the same time.
And back to about your experience, like the candle house. I know you've seen like the Geico commercial with this, the Geico from the Geico insurance, and the dude's walking upstairs and all the like mannequins up there. The dude like, no.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I actually just sold a house recently where there were mannequins, but they'd cut them in half. And so like the bottom half, like they cleaned out like where the hips were and turned them into planters. It was really kind of funny. But you know, when you're walking up to a house and on the front porch is the top of a mannequin,
Yeah,
with his arms all splayed, you're like,
I wish somebody would have told me about this.
right? What is going on in there? I know I called the agent, the listing agent. She's like, yeah, you know, the owner is an artist. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Do you find like in your real estate career, like selling homes, buying homes, like be like, have there been times like where you're like, hey owner, like you're killing me right now, like you're not doing a good job, you know, either like presenting the house or making, you know, like I'm sure you go into houses and like the house like this crap dirty, you know, or like not presentable. Like how do you like convince the owner like, hey, you got to put some work into this, not on me?
Yeah. You know, I think
or maybe like you say you want to sell a house, but do you really want to sell a house?
Yeah. Well, and that's it too, right? Like this is going to affect your proceeds. Like, you know, you want top dollar, this is how you get top dollar. You do this, and this. And if you can't do it, we'll do it for you. But you understand why we're doing it. I have, you know, there's some sort of, I remember once I had to call a homeowner. I'm like, hey, you got to put the bongs away.
The what away?
Bongs. Like,
oh, okay.
I'm like, they're distracting for people looking at the house. Like maybe just put them in the closet or something.
Under the bed or something.
Right. They should, you know, you do you, that's cool, but it's distracting. Or like, you know, sometimes people will have risque artwork, you know, I'm like, okay, that's lovely, but maybe not why the house is for sale.
I mean, it was some crazy, the walls painted some crazy colors. Maybe we need to repaint them from yellow, pink polka dots and, you know, zebra stripes to like something more, you know, like more common.
Yeah. And we do for sellers is we'll, we have a fix up fund. So for people selling their house, we'll come in and we'll actually cover the painting and staging and all of those things, because a lot of times sellers, number one, they don't want to do it, or they can't afford to do it, or it's hard to do it, right? Sometimes it's really emotional selling a house and painting over the kids.
All the memories and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a time when you have to tell a seller like, hey, your house been on the market for like, you know, X number of days, X number of months. We need to lower the price, or we need to like take it off the market. I always heard like if your house on the market too long, you should take it off and put it on there later on.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's different ways of looking at it. There's a lot of different philosophies surrounding it. The crazy thing about the Seattle market is it hasn't been an issue for a really long time. Last year, I think was a little challenging because we did start seeing prices affected because of the rising interest rates. But those are hard conversations to have, right? It's, and you know, when I have those early conversations with sellers, it's so hard to make sure they don't get too, you know, focused on what could be, right?
Yeah.
Like there's this range. Here's the range that we're probably looking at. There's surprises, you know, we don't know what might be around the corner, or that might come up on an inspection, or that rising interest rates are going to affect pricing, right? But I've done both, right? I've had the let's lower the price conversation, and I've had the, you know, sellers that don't have a life need reason to move. You know, maybe let's take it off, let things cool down, and we'll come on again in the spring or whenever, right?
And so when owners have like unrealistic expectations, like they say, hey, on according to Zillow, everything I look at, my house worth $1 million. But you know that this house only worth $600,000. How do you like have the conversation and convince them like, I mean, that's a big cut, right? $1,600,000. Or I mean, a big cut, right? How do you convince them like, hey, I know you've seen on Zillow, the crypto company, however, comma, this is the real deal. This is a market, so to speak, you know?
Yeah. Data,
Mm.
straight out data.
Yeah.
Like, yes, this is what Zillow says. This is what Redfin says. This is what sold homes say. Like, these are the actual numbers,
Yeah.
you know, here's a house just like yours that sold 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's that house 3 doors down, exactly like your same square foot, whatever, it's sold for this amount.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, they have all these upgrades. You ain't done shit to your house.
Yes. Yes. And, you know, and it's hard too, because like listing a house, you know, as an agent, you'll go out and look at all the other houses that are for sale. So you can have a really good idea of what the competition is. And sometimes you'll need to bring the seller with you so that they can have a deeper understanding of, you know, what is out there. And, you know, some sellers really think their house is,
Of course they do.
pretty fabulous. And it's
And how about the opposite, right? Like someone's house is worth, we'll say $600,000. And this want to move, right? They want to move to Alabama or to get out of Dodge, whatever. And so they say, we're going to sell it for $400,000. Like, how do you convince them that, no, you need to raise it up somewhere? Or do you say, no, that's your decision, you know, like sell for $400,000? Or you like, of course, commission for $600,000 is way more than $400,000. So that's some tough interest in it too, right? How do you balance that, right?
Well, you know, I think you balance it in, again, data, like this is what you're sacrificing to do that. And then number two, the market's not going to let it sell for $400,000, right? If you put a $600,000 house on a $400,000, a whole bunch of people are going to make it worth more than $400,000 with their offers.
Actually, that might be a good thing to do, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's one avenue that agents have done for you know, the past several years, is, you know, the low price to get the bidding wars.
Yeah.
And it works most of the time.
Nice. So once again, anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Last question. Can you give us any last minute advice or wisdom or anything you want to talk about?
Ooh, boy. You know, I think I feel like I should say something about housing. Buying a house or selling a house is all about life. What's going on in your life, right? Not a right or wrong time. It depends on what's going on in your life. Right. Be true to yourself. Shed all the crap that you think you're supposed to do or should do, and just try to dig in on what you want to do.
Nice. Tami, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so very much. I enjoyed being here.
And for our listeners at Kevin State, the Jason Kevin Experience, at Kevin State HR, we're doing an equity crowdfunding the refunder campaign. To learn more how to become an early investor in Kevin State HR, go to https://refunder.com/Kevin State HR. Thanks for your time. And remember to be great every day.